If I look nervous today, that's because for the first time my wife is sitting here. So if I don't really follow me, tell me, because I'm a bit nervous now. So who's read the book about Donella H. Meadows about thinking in systems? So who of you read the book cannot answer this question, but she starts with asking her question to the students is, what made the slinky move? Anyone know? So a lot of students would say it's the hand, right? If I move my hand, the slinky moves. But then again, nothing happens. So that's how she starts this book, and that's also how she says the hands that manipulate it suppress or releases some behavior that is latent within the structure of the spring. And that's a system. So a system is an interconnected set of elements that's coherently organized in a way that achieves something, a function or a purpose. Why function or purpose? Well, a system as we know it, as we build software, has functions, but a human being might hopefully have a purpose to live. So that's why function or purpose is the change here. So what are systems? Tree is a system, a school is a system, my cats on the upper right corner, those are systems. A corporation, which I usually consult, are a system, and the teams I work in are also systems. So these are all systems. So what in system thinking is composed? How is a system composed? It's composed in elements. Well, those are simple. You can see them. They're different parts of the system. So teams would be an element of a system in a corporation. Really simple. They're easy to observe and they're easy to change, but they won't really change the system. That's why they're on top, right? So the second part is the interconnection, the interconnections they have with each other. So if you change interconnection, you greatly alter the system. And then you have the function of purpose again in the lower bottom right corner, and if you change that, well, it can be really drastic, right? If you change a school system to not be a school system anymore, so the function of a purpose is it a school system? So that's a bit basic in system thinking. And to show you a bit more about how you can look at these systems, here's a top for you. It's not, unfortunately, my top. It has a good view. But if water flows into a top and water flows out of a top, and there's a stock in the top, and those are three ways of the system. And you can, if you look in the book, this is a small example. So you have the inflow, and you have the outflow. You can also show it like this, really basic, right? Water level goes down, in 50 minutes your tub is empty. But what if so who's ever been sit in the tub and it's like cold after 20 minutes, right? So what do? You have a discrepancy between the desired temperature, so you do a bit of the outflow, it goes out, and you add in new hot water. So again, temperature level. So that's a really basic intro, and I would advise you to read the book. But the book also explains multiple traps. So we're at a conference. There's public bathrooms. Who visits public bathrooms in a conference? Who likes them to be clean? Have you ever seen a public bathroom that's not clean? So that's really strange, right? We all like them to be clean, but who makes them dirty? It's usually us. So if everyone likes them to be clean, how can they be dirty? So that's a system trap for you because it's a shared resource, so it's a system trap. So for who you have not been in the male bathroom, they did a few tweaks to that to improve the system. It's this fly, so we can aim. So that's actually a way to improve the system out of the trap, right? So that nothing gets dirty too much. So just a short intro into the system. And when you go online, I saw this blog post, and it's about system traps in software development. And when I read the book and I read this, I'm like, let's observe what I encountered into software development. So who am I? My name is Baas Schwegler. It's Dutch and German, but Gien translated it for me, I think you. Baas Schwegler. It's better, it's a lot better. My wife always says Baas Schwegler now too. So if you want to translate it, Baas Schwegler. What do? I'm a strategic technology consultant and agile technical coach, so I go to these corporations. And these corporations will have multiple continuous delivery, DevOps, SRE, whatever you want. I'd rather call them continuous delivery teams. And I help them, try to help them improve. So today I will go over these 8 system traps. And the 8 system traps, I will start with don't kill Kenny. So I go in and tell a personal story about how I failed in these systems. Then I'll show you what's the trap in the book. I'll show you what the book explains, how you get out of this trap. And then I'll show you some guiding heuristics. So if you're not sure what a heuristic is, it's also referred to as a rule of thumb or a cognitive shortcut, right? So I will go, each of these traps I will go into in this structure. So the first part is a while ago I was in a team and I was really annoyed by QA being on the outside of the team. So I said, maybe we should pull them inside the team. Problem solved, right? We have QA in the team, we can be more continuous delivery. So here we are developing stuff, but for some reason the quality didn't really go up. Really strange, but we're in a team now, right? So there's a system trap here, is just to have pull this person into the team doesn't improve the system at all, because we're still shifting the burden to that intervener. Meaning, okay, we've done coding, still goes to the other team member, you solve the QA problem, right? The system is still there. We didn't solve it by just putting teams, which then I'll call DevOps, right? Put Dev and Ops together, it will be fine. No, it's a culture thing, it's a system trap, don't do it. So what are more other examples of this is temporary code or fix, right? We just temporary code or fix it. Nothing is temporary. Hire more manual tester, hire more developers, security operations, and consultant. The consultant will fix it. Shifting the burden to the intervener. You have a pain, and you're shifting it to someone else, but you're not improving the system. And a good example in real life would be here, what I see is the Helen Keller loop. It's these parents who had a child who was disabled, so they hire people in to take care of this person, but then they're shifting the burner to that intervener. So she can never grow to her full potential because someone else is helping that person out. So the moment they let that go and release that a bit, the person went to college, got master's degrees, and that wouldn't help if someone is helping this person constantly. Oh, I need this. Okay, here's the thing. Right? Sometimes you need to let go. So take that focus of the short-term relief and put it on long-term restructuring. So no, we're not going to help you. How can you resolve this yourself? So this is the way out that's proposed in the book. And how would I do that in teams? How would we resolve that later is, well, as I said, a group of people is not a team. So just by sticking people in a room and call them DevOps, don't make them DevOps. You need to focus on them being able to develop. Let's call it continuous delivery. Let's focus on that. Okay, just focus on that team collaboration. It's really important. Easy heuristic, right? But usually this doesn't happen. And if you look at what companies do is they implement Scrum, and Scrum is here on the outside. But here you see collective ownership, coding standards, sustainable pace. So let's try to bring more of these XP practices back. Let's try to collaborate, not isolate, but collaborate with each other, team ownership. That collective ownership is so important for teams. Else you'll fall into the trap of shifting the burden to the intervener. I've seen it with ops. It's ops' problem now. Yeah, but he's in the team. Yeah, but this person is ops, right? So, later on, I think actually the first project I ever been to as a developer, I came in, and the first thing they said, we have a legacy code for you, and you need to adjust it. So I'm like, oh, who worked on legacy code? Who had the feeling of not doing legacy maintenance and everything? Like, oh, it's legacy. Let's just code something quick and put it to production. Who's ever done this? Let's do something quick. Let's not write some unit tests. Unit tests aren't even there, so why would I write unit tests? It's legacy. It will be out, right? 5 years later, I was still working on that legacy. It's perfect. I hit myself in a nail because I needed to refactor something I created, which didn't have unit tests. So the test here is drift to low performance, right? Just by saying the word legacy, you're up here, negative. Legacy has a negative word, and Eric Evans, and that's why I showed you the previous picture, it says we need to be more positive towards legacy. It's there for a reason. It's doing its job. Be proud of it. Don't turn into that negative cycle and just fall back, oh, it's legacy, and it makes it even worse. So to get out, actually other observation I made here is sprint forecasting. Who's ever planned a sprint and within 2 weeks actually got all the points out? I salute you, I never had that. And then half the way of the sprint, it's like, yeah, we're not gonna make it anyway. Who's had this? Right? Yeah. Spiraling in negativity, right? And the moment you write code, it becomes legacy code anyway. So the way out is keep performance standards absolutes. Let standards be enhanced by the best actual performance. Sounds great, great advice from the book, but how do we do it? So the way out is make agreement on team standards, improve collaboration by bombing and pairing. I was new, and I was sitting alone on that legacy. I didn't have the wisdom or the knowledge to write unit testing code, but my colleagues was. So if you pair up and show you there is a way to keep the standards high, to keep the standard absolute, like a definition of done would, but it's a theme thing, right? We check, why didn't you create unit tests? Well, I couldn't. Usually it says, I don't know how to create a unit test for this legacy. That's fine, let's learn. Okay, so keep reiterating and reiterating on these made agreements. And a good thing, Woody is here, of course, with his mob programming. So let's just all go and have fun at this legacy project. Let's make it better together. So, who's ever worked with a rockstar developer? So yeah, I have, or I've maybe been a rockstar developer at one point. The developer that knows everything, right? They have a name, just say it. You need to go to this person because they know all, right? Who's ever worked with a person that they know, they have every knowledge, maybe even the dungeon master, right? They have all the knowledge of the program. Who's worked with these people? Yeah. So actually that's a pattern called success to successful, really simple pattern. If you have money, you can make more money, right? It's the other way around. It goes up, 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 up. So the person that has the knowledge will always gain more knowledge faster than the person that doesn't have the knowledge. So other observation here are maturity models, right? And job hierarchy with promotions. It used to be so that everyone wants to turn manager and CTO, right? Though I hope that's not the case anymore. But it can lead to what you call the Peter principle. Eventually you'll be promoted into an incompetence. Yeah, you're incompetence as a good developer, but that doesn't mean you're a good manager. So you're eventually promoted into incompetence. That's the Peter principle for you. And that's success to successful, but they will stay that way. For some reason, they never get fired. At least I didn't see. So the way out, it's quite simple, which is not simple, but the word is simple, diversification. So guiding heuristic is, do you have a new team member? Pair up with them. Mob program, guide them in. Don't say, oh, here's a user story that's really simple, you can start with that. I've done it, and I won't do it again. Just pair up, try to get them on par, try to sync as much as possible. Again, it's about collaboration. Another guiding heuristic is focus on neurodiversity, so not just diversity, but also neuro. Everyone is an individual and different, so yeah, I'm not that diverse. I try to, so far didn't work out. Focus on equality, equal access to opportunity, focus on inclusion, create a sense of belonging. So that means if you are that person that has the most knowledge, pull other people in front, let them do it. And there's a great talk yesterday about Romeo, about Bourdieu, I hope I say it correctly this time, and try to see that and focus on that, try to be aware of this. It's really... And what I try to do is I facilitate a lot, and you have this thing called liberating structures, and they try to battle all these differences and these hierarchical things. I've been to one last year, Lean Agile Scotland, and it was awesome. Just try it. They're online, they're free, search them up. So another thing is, I've had this phrase last year, it's called collective autocracy. So democracy is nice, but there's always people being suppressed in a democracy. So it's either most of them win and some of them lose. There's always a loser in democracy. So try to create collective autocracy, try to let the whole team agree on something, which is really hard. Dutch people try to do it for a long time. It's called polderen. Also not a good thing. But there's a thing called deep democracy, the Lewis method. And this is someone who did this after the apartheid in South Africa. She went into businesses, and that was really a conflict, right, back then. And she did it just by this method. So check it out. It's really awesome. So then, with all my consultancy knowledge, I went into a team, and that team were doing Git flow. And anyone who knows me, I'm not a big fan of Git flow, not at all. I'm a trunk-based developer. So what did I do? I said, you need to do trunk-based development. We're going to do it today, we're going to do it tomorrow. So I was pushing them, and I was pulling them towards that trunk-based development, right? I can tell you it didn't really went that well. Because they were taking longer by themselves to create code and commit code. And what's the trap here? It's actually called policy resistant. So when you have two competing goals, and in this case it's the war on drugs, that goals each time pull the system back and forth, back and forth. So as you see here, in 1996 you had 6.3, and America wants to do the war on drugs, so they're going to pump more money in. But what does the drug people do? Well, pull it back. So yeah, did it work? Not exactly. It's actually made it worse. It's actually now a lot of money going into that war on drugs. That's a policy resistance. So the other observation here is technical depth versus quick delivery. So who's been in this battle with their PO? Yeah, but we need to solve these technical depth. And then the PO, yeah, but you need to deliver. Systems collide, and the more you say, let's do technical depth, so you get a few days for the technical depth, so you write that, and then the PO comes, no, we're going to have the deadline, and you create more technical depth because you need to make the deadline, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Spiraling down out of control. So that's a trap. And what's the way out is to, it sounds simple again, bring in all the actors and seek out mutual satisfactory ways for all goals to be realized. Hard one. So how did I do that? It's creating a shared mindset of how software is delivered, use visualization, and measure the delivery. So in case of that Git flow, really make it visible what's going on, where the pain is. So I'm a big fan, and Maxime already explained, of visual meetings. Make things explicit on the board. So my thing is event storming, and I have a whole backpack with me, and within the backpack I got a lot of these visualizations. So I've been in a lot of meetings where we're sitting like this, and there's no visualization, and people are talking back and forth. And everyone has their own perception and perspectives, and, well, we keep talking, but nothing comes out. So I use this with event storming, and the first thing I do is when I want to check the delivery of the continuous delivery, I want to see where does it go wrong. I do something called team flow event storming, and I can visualize queues. And I do that by putting in everyone capable of or important in the delivery in one room, and I'm just going to do event storming, right? And visualize the pain, visualize where it is. And now we can visualize the goals. But it's not enough. This is just a quick fix, right? It's in people's head, which is fine, creates collective things. But you need to do something else, and that's Steve Smith's book is Measuring Continuous Delivery. I like this book. It shows you, well, we can, from commit to production, you can actually measure a lot. Get data out, get facts out, and make that visible again for the whole team. And you can show where your queues are building up and where we can improve the whole system. And then the last one is the technical depth. And there's a great blog post by Matthias Veras, and it's actually managing technical depth by creating visualization on the board. So when a PO says we need to deliver it, and you say, well, we need to take a shortcut for the technical debt, but it's depth, right? So it's interest. Matthias does it slightly different. What I do is, well, okay, we can do this, but each week or each sprint we're not resolving this technical debt. We're putting it on the board. Each sprint we're not doing this. Every other user story will cost you more. If they're thinking in terms of points and everything, I'm just adding interest on that points. And really fast you are able to create that. Because you get the feeling like, oh, next sprint this was only 3 points. Yeah, remember this sticky here? Remember that technical debt we talked about? Now it's 5 because we didn't resolve it. Okay, cool. Now we can have better conversations. Because it's visible. So then at some point early in my life, we went to Scrum. Awesome, Scrum, gonna do that process. So I was standing at the board, and I was blindly taking the stickies, and yeah, this is done, this is done, this is done, this is done. And nothing really improved over there. And my code got worse and worse and worse. Because I didn't take into account unit test. I was just so focused on putting that sticky up to done without thinking about what it did with my code. So there's a system tab called seeking the wrong goal. And Scrum has this big pitfall that we're talking about the process and not about the result or what it needs to do. We're talking about effort here. The effort is taking the to-do stickies. And developers like me were really pressured, right? Is it already done? Who's standing at daily stand-up in the morning and we're told, what have you done yesterday? And who says, well, I was trying to fix something. So what did moved? What is visualized? Okay, this is done. Who's ever had that? That's the downside of Scrum for you. It's about effort, and it should be about result. Other examples are unrealistic deadlines, KPIs, op-solving incidents. So the unrealistic deadline is, I've once heard management just say, okay, let's put the deadline 1 month. I know they're going to be late 2 months anyway. But I want to pressurize them into, seen this? KPIs and op-solving incidents, just get that ops incidents up, just fix it as soon as possible, but we're not fixing the problem. They're just fixing incidents. It's just fixing fires. So the way out is reflect the real welfare of the system. As I said, don't confuse effort with result. It's about what result are you building, not the effort you put in. Effort always is wrong. And the seeking the wrong goal is also coverage, right? That's the simplest part. Whoever had a threshold of 93% coverage, that was, you need to get 93% test coverage? Who had this? Oh, then I had this a lot of times, where they say you got to have 93% code coverage because our quality needs to improve. And then I looked into a system and I was like, wow, all these data objects got tested. And I got asserts false. Wow, this really improved the system a lot. Seeking the wrong goals is like the 3 wishes in the Disney movies. You wish for something, improved coverage, but you will never get it. You will never get what you actually want, that's improved quality. So a guiding heuristic, the team should be autonomous, so focus on result rather than effort. So if the team has a good PO, and it's again about collaboration, it makes it a lot simpler. No estimates, I like it. Just don't, estimates usually resolve into time, that's always a discussion you have. But what is 5 points then, 3 hours? And we're back to forecasting and time. And yeah, uncertainty is, had a great talk about uncertainty today. You're not gonna get what you want anyway. It's uncertain. So then, early in my life, I'm a Java programmer and I thought Spring was the thing to choose. And then the rest was, no, we need to do GEE. Yeah, but Spring. Who's ever been into technical discussions like this with the framework? Yeah, and how did that resolve? Usually in escalation, right? So this is a nice tweet about Donald Trump explaining exactly what escalation is. Awesome. The United States must greatly strengthen and expand its nuclear capability until such time the world comes to its senses regarding nukes. Awesome. So it's a war game, right? It's the Cold War. That's escalation for you. Other examples are gamification between teams. And yes, I've seen it. Who's written the most quality software? Who writes the most lines of code? Or has the most COF coverage? This can lead, again, to seeking the wrong goal. But this is escalation, because teams are rather focused on beating each other on coverage, which results in seeking the wrong goal, than on what really matters. Didn't like it. The way out, refuse to compete. Really simple, just disarm. Negotiate a new system with balancing loops. So what I do is reform teams when needed to balance. Who's seen this? Dynamic reteaming by Heidi. It's great. She did it for another way, but just try to reform teams. I have a colleague who at some point says, well, you're out of the team. Because it's an escalation and we need to disarm this escalation now. I've even once heard that a team did it themselves, which is even better, but I've never seen it happen myself. So the team said to the person, well, I think this doesn't work. And the other guy was, other person was like, yeah, this doesn't work. Oh, perfect. Never happened, but usually you need to pull this thing out. And when it really doesn't work, always remove toxic people from the team when all else fails. I'm not a big fan of this, but some colleagues of mine did it. I once did it. It's not good, but toxic is not a good way for your team. We're talking about teams. Toxic is never, ever good. So talking about the 100% touch coverage again, right? So I've seen this happen where a manager needed to improve quality, ask their teams, look, you need 93% code coverage because the quality needs to go up. Went to their manager and say, look, they did 93% code coverage, yay. And then I brought in, because everything was slowing down, and I was looking, and as I told you just now, they all write assert true. Yes, we have the code coverage. And that's another trap. It's called rule beating. So this is a traffic cam. Super. But everyone will drive hard, fast. Before that thing pops up, and then, yeah, there we go again. Rule beating doesn't really help. System trap. Other observation are user story templates. As I want, who's seen this? As a system, I want a function because blah, blah, blah. That was like, who thought of that? Let's build something in Jira that you always need to fill it in like this. And then you are in a retrospective for 10 minutes. Oh, how do we form this SA blah, blah, blah user story? I've been in this. Well, then we just write this down. So giving user stories points to fix time work. I've been in a poker session where we said, tomorrow we go to a conference, so let's just, so we do 8 or 5 points. Why? Yeah, because the management needed us, they have this forecasting system. My first job, we had an under-the-shelf PC running, a build server. I've seen build server run up because the team that does the build servers didn't want us to use an iOS, because we needed an iOS runner. Yeah, we can't. Okay, we'll buy a Mac and put it in a club. We rule beat that, right? So the way out is design or redesign rules to release creativity, not in the direction of beating the rules, but in the direction of achieving the purpose of the rule. So the team, again, should be autonomous, focus on purpose rather than rules. So what's the purpose? The purpose is to create quality software, not to write these unit tests. So you go to the team actually and ask them, okay, how can we improve the system? And they need to take ownership. And don't let the manager ever tell you to beat that. Don't let someone else from the team say, you need to do 93% code coverage. If you hear this sentence, you need to do 93% code coverage, let them stop there and say, no, we're going to going to check with the system, A, what do you really want? What's the purpose of your question? B, okay, how are you going to solve that? Take ownership. Don't let others do that. So then, at some point, we had a shared library in our company. So multiple teams has the same library. Whoever had that in the company, shared libraries you used? Yeah. And all of a sudden, the shared library didn't work anymore. It was hard to change the library. It was hard to update the library. Didn't have enough unit test coverage. Who had this with a lot of shared libraries? It took a long time to change the library at some point. So in your sprint, you say, yeah, we can deliver it. And then, no, the library, we cannot do this yet. So that's, again, that strategy of the commons, right? We have something shared. We have a shared resource. In this case, it's a library. And in this case, the strategy of the commons is these three farmers who have the same field, and they put cows on it. And what do they want? They all want more cows because it earns more money. But nobody's watching that the land doesn't have enough grass anymore at some point. So when you look at the world, we're losing a lot of fish lately in the ocean, right? Because nobody takes ownership of the sea, and everyone wants more fish. And that's the strategy of the commons, shared resources. Other examples is the shared database. End-to-end chain testing. Yeah, we're all responsible for the whole end-to-end chain testing. So as Dan Noord says, a big central database is just a dependency generator. It's actually someone else, but this tweet is the same for the end-to-end testing, right? It just creates more dependencies, and it just creates more strategy of the commons. In this case, the way out would be educate, extort, or create awareness, so people understand the consequences of abusing the resource, or restore as restricted the feedback loop by prioritizing or giving the direct consequence. Sounds harsh, right? But it's a shared resource, so sometimes we need to be harsh. So make a team owner of the shared library. That's the easiest one. Like, you're owner now, and the rest will just do pull requests or something. Not optimized, but it's better than nothing, right? We have this shared library. The other one is put in place proper CI/CD. Only change the software when other teams collectively refute. I'm a DDD fan. You have the shared kernel context. If you have this, you need to do it on the shared collectivity. That means that you set up rules for change. Everyone needs to agree that we're changing this, and everyone needs to review it when it changes. That's a really long feedback loop, I know, but it's still better than getting a worse library that nobody uses in the end anymore. And these are all traps again. And the trap here is that we might not even think about the whole system because we have one library and multiple teams use it. Is it really so that the library is used by multiple teams? Because dry, maybe all teams can fork it in their own library. And if you look at a system of improvement is direct. If we have a system of improvement that's directed at improving the parts taken separately, you cannot absolutely be sure that the improvement of the whole will not be improved. Meaning, improving that team is good, you need to do it, but it won't probably improve the whole system. Theory of constraints is such a thing that shows that part. And here you can see it, right? If I improve it here and if I have a shared library over this, improving that won't improve this whole company because the teams are working in the company. So you might not improve the whole company. Probably not. Because there's actually, usually what I observe, there's a disconnect between the continuous delivery team and the business. Right? There's a lot of handovers between what needs to be built and the IT teams. Having IT and business separate is not that good in a system, in my opinion. They need to be the same. They are the same because it's one system. How do I do that? I already explained, event storming. And event storming is used mostly for domain modeling. In this case, I use it for big picture event storming, so check the whole system. Put them in a room, and let them do some stickies on the wall and facilitate. There's a really nice post from Alberto in the DDD First 15 Years book. He explains it. how you can pull all these people together in one room and try to create a loosely coupled architecture with loosely coupled teams. And that's actually really important. And if you read the book Accelerate by Nicole, she also says this, right? It's if you want to have good continuous delivery teams, you need to have a loosely coupled architecture with loosely coupled teams. And big picture event storming is a really simple way, just not takes one day, but it takes a day to visualize all these couplings and see where you can start improving the system as a whole. And maybe that shared library is then not a shared library. Because let's create a context map and let's see where that shared library fit. And that's the domain-driven design part in here. And to end this, this talk, and it's actually the most important thing I find, is expose your mental models to the open air. It's a team collaboration. Nobody has the monopoly to the correct thing. You all are right, but nobody has the monopoly to be right. Everyone has their perspectives. And that's really, if I want to sum up system thinking, and it comes also from anthropology, it's about exposing your mental models to the open air. Just because you don't agree with the other person doesn't mean they are not right. They are right in their perspective and in their context. And that was it. Thank you very much. Questions? That can mean two things, right? Either it was clear or... Yeah, that's one question.
So talking about the shared libraries that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned like maybe you should make one team responsible for it.
Yeah.
But don't you think like the teams can never be like fully autonomous with this shared library in place?
No. So it's either they're never. So teams are never autonomous, I think. But I try to lower the coupling as much as possible. So we need to check the trade-offs. So I'd rather see what the real purpose is of the shared library. It can be something technical. Is it really something technical? But maybe we can just split that in several groups. So maybe 2 teams are dependent on the library is okay. Once it turns into 3 things, that's a sort of, yeah, it's heuristic. Then I check, maybe we need to fork this or create one team, one context. Yeah, like that. Does that answer?
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Then thank you very much.